Today we're going to talk about this stuff, copper, and how you can farm it. And how we're going to do that? Well, we're going to turn one useless mob into a mob that's not so useless. In this tutorial we'll go over all the details about how this farm works, and I'll show you how to build it. This copper farm begins with a general mob farm. I've got a design here that you can use, or you can use one of your own. If you already have one in your world, then you can add this copper module underneath to make the useless zombie mobs actually useful. So you can see here underneath we collect up all the mobs and we actually sort them. So we take out all the other mobs and we're just left with the zombies. The zombies then float down in this water just long enough so they then convert into drowns. We then kill them in our killing area there with a looting sword, and all the other mobs out of the general mob farm fall down here and we can collect their drops. So we don't only get copper out of this farm, we also get all the other useful items like gunpowder and bones. Before we get into the details and I do a block by block tutorial of this farm, let's talk about the rates. So if you build this in 1.17, you can expect around 135 copper per hour. Now in 1.17.1 we get a boost. There's been some changes to the drops, and in fact you'll get 288 drops per hour. That's around 4.5 stacks of copper per hour. Before we get into the farm itself, I've got a few details here to talk about to explain how this stuff works. So first of all, copper is a new ore in the game. It looks like this if you find it in a cave, and actually the drops we get out of this farm aren't that great compared to other farms. So if you don't need that much copper, then you're probably better off just going mining. So having said that, if you get yourself a fortune pick, this also works on here, so you'll get more drops if you use fortune. So it's definitely worth doing that if you can. Once you get this stuff, this is the new raw copper, and you can pop that into a furnace and that will smelt up to get you your copper ingots. However, if you like making farms and you've got some AFK time available, then this is the farm for you. So what you need is a looting sword. So here I've got a rather special looting sword. I've got this one which is looting 1000, just to show you and just to demonstrate that if we kill a drowned, either an adult or a baby, we will get some copper. So if I kill this guy, you can see there we go, there's some copper ingots. Pick those up, and also this one right here. There we go, there's some copper there as well. So depending on your looting level, you will get some copper. Now in terms of the rates of this, how does it look? Well, in 1.17, there is a 5% chance of a drowned dropping an ingot, and that increases by 1% for each level of looting. So if you've got a looting 3 sword, then there's an 8% chance of dropping an ingot. That changes in 1.17.1. There's now an 11% chance of getting an ingot from a drowned, and that increases by 2% per level of looting. So if you get a looting 3 sword, there's a 17% chance of getting an iron ingot. Iron ingot? A copper ingot. That's what I actually meant. Right. Before we talk about this farm, let's talk about some of the alternatives. So there are other ways to get drowns. You can create a farm in a river or an ocean and try and farm directly. Problem is, that's way too slow. I've done some testing and that is far too slow to be useful. So I've ditched that idea. So we are going to go for the converting zombies. Now there is another option, and that is to use a zombie spawner. So that is also way too slow. I've got one set up over here. Let me quickly show you. Here we have our zombie spawner, and as you can see here, the zombies spawn out of that spawner, and then they pushed into this water. So similar to our other farm, they float down all of this water. There's 17 water sources here. They float all the way down, and then they get pushed along this way, up this bubble column over here to the killing area, and then you can stand here to kill these mobs. They've got some soul stand here to slow them down, so they're guaranteed to be drowned once they get into the killing area. And then we chop them up just like we do in the other farm to get the drops. Now this is way too slow in my opinion. Here are the rates. So 1.17, you're only going to get 35 drops per hour. That's my in my testing, and 1.17.1 only 75. So these things are pretty easy to build. So if you can find yourself a double or a triple spawner and you don't need that much, then maybe it's a good option. But that's the kind of technique that you can do to get some copper this way. So as you can see, these copper farms are really limited by how many drowns you can kill, how many zombies you can convert in the time. There is another option, and that is zombie reinforcements. So there's a great video out by Nembon that goes through all the details of that and produces a lot of copper. So go and check that out if you want another option. How does the conversion work? Well, you need to get a zombie and have his head in water for 30 seconds. Once that happens, they will start to shake, and at that point they need another 15 seconds before they convert. So let's see that in action. If we get ourselves a zombie and pop him in here, you'll see that once his head goes into place here, we need to wait 30 seconds before he starts shaking. Now you can see this zombie is shaking. That means he will convert no matter what. Even if we take the water out, he will still convert. So we just need to wait around now for another few seconds and he will turn into a drowned. And there we have it. There is our drowned ready for farming. The reason I've gone for this approach is because a lot of players will end up having a general mob farm in their world, and what we can do is we can add this contraption onto the bottom, which means that we can get some use out of the zombies. Normally they just drop the rotten flesh, which isn't that useful at all. You can trade it away, but you know, generally speaking, it's not that useful. So what we can do now is we can use those zombies that weren't all that useful before and convert them into drowns to get the copper. Last of all, let's talk about how we're going to sort the mobs out of our general mob farm so we're just left with the zombies. So first of all, there is a difference between undead mobs and other mobs. So a zombie and a skeleton are undead, they will sink in water, but other mobs like a creeper or a witch, for example, they will not. They will float and swim on the top. So we can use that to our advantage. If we have a water stream like this, I've got a hole here, so the undead mobs can fall through there and all other mobs should go over. So let's just test that out. If we put our zombie in here and also a creeper, for example, you'll see that the zombie will float down. It will go down underneath here, but the creeper will go right over the top and go this way. So this way we can sort out undead from the dead. And then we're just left with these two gruesome mobs. How do we sort these two out? Well, there is a slight difference between them. One is higher than the other. So a zombie is 1.9 blocks high and a skeleton is 1.99 high. So if I was to put a block above these two here, and if I was to then turn on hitboxes, you can see just about that the zombie here is slightly shorter than the skeleton. So how can we use that to our advantage? Well, over here, if we take a look, we can actually sort them out this way. So this is a discovery made by Red Hat Hacker. There'll be a link in the description. He's done a lot of work to work out how you can do this. But essentially, you need to get the right combination of blocks. So if you have a campfire or some sea pickles or turtle eggs on the bottom, and then have a block in between, and then have a chain above, only the zombies will fit through and the skeletons will not. So we also have some flowing water here. So when we get the mobs inside here, the flowing water pulls them along and then they'll go down this way. So what we can do is, one way of getting them into that area there is to have a piston here that pushes them in. So if I press that, you'll see that the zombie goes through, but the skeleton does not. And that's how we do it in our farm. Now that we've gone through the details, let's take a look at this farm. So here we have a general mob farm. As I said before, you can use any design for this. I've got this one here that you can use. We've got 10 levels here that spawn all of the mobs. We've got this roof on the top to keep it dark and also introduce pack spawning. And then all of the mobs get pushed by water into the center, into this area here. We then have some water streams that push them along. We can see here, as we saw before, there's a hole here. So the undead mobs will then sink down. So that's the zombies and the skeletons. We'll sort those out in a second. Everything else goes along the top and then dies of full damage, and their items can be collected underneath. We do that because we want to get rid of those mobs as soon as we can, which allows more mobs to spawn above. Once we've got that, we've got these undead mobs that come down into this central area here, and as we saw before, we have a redstone clock over there that controls how often this piston pushes across, so all of the zombies go into the water, and there's another piston underneath that opens up, so anything that's left behind, which is going to be the skeletons, they drop down into the same killing area below for their items to be picked up. The zombies then get pushed into this water and they sink for 17 blocks of water sources all the way down to the bottom. By the time they get to the bottom here, they are all shaking, so they all will convert eventually. They get pushed over into this bubble column, which lifts them all the way up. So they come all the way up to the top, and then there's a little bit of soul sand here to slow them down. That's to make sure that all the mobs convert to a drown just in time before they get into the killing area. They then fall down here, taking a bit of fall damage, which makes them a bit easier to kill. We can then chop them up, and their drops end up in these hoppers right here. Now you could keep all of those items if you wanted to keep the rotten flesh, but I've got an item sorter here that will sort out the copper, and everything else gets dispensed into this lava right here to clean things up. So here you can see all of the copper drops underneath. A couple of things here to be aware of is that some of these mobs will end up with armor, and some of the armor will have thorns on. That means it can damage you and also push you back. So first of all, make sure there's a block behind you. So I've got this trapdoor here, make sure you close that. So if you do get knocked back by the thorns, you'll stay in their position. The other thing is that will damage you. So it's good to have a regen beacon around to regenerate any health. That's also the case if you do a long AFK session, you may die of starvation because you won't be eating. So a regen beacon will sort of solve that problem as well. Obviously, if you're here and you're clicking away and you're in attendance, then that won't be a worry. You can deal with that yourself. But yeah, two things to be aware of. The last thing to mention is how high you should build this farm. So generally speaking, we build farms as low as we can in the world to optimize the rates. It's not necessary for this farm because we have lots of mobs hanging around. The mob cap is filled a lot of the time. But one thing that can help out is that this block right here is a source block, and it's good to have this above sea level. That's because if it's not, and you have drowned over here, they will try and pathfind to the source block and they can clog up the system. So I'll definitely recommend that this block right here is above sea level. I've got this one at 66. So So a lot of this farm you can build above an ocean. If you want to do that, you'll have to drain out a little bit of water underneath to make room for the rest of it. If you're building this above land, then of course the normal rules apply to all mob farms. You'll need to spawn proof the area, light up the caves, all that kind of stuff, but that applies to any farm you might build. Next up, let's do the block by block tutorial. So what you need to do is you need to get a bunch of materials. Here is the material list. So I'll scroll this down slowly. You can obviously pause the video if you need to get this list. Now I'll also put this list in the description below as well to help you out. The things you'll need in addition to this is a couple of hopper minecarts, but generally speaking, these are all the items you need. Of course, when I've got things like slabs and blocks, you can use any slab and any block for that. You don't have to use the sandstone. That's just what I had lying around. First of all, let's build the mob farm. Now, if you already have one in your world, then you can skip this step. Just need to make sure that all of your mobs are brought to a central area so we can process them later and we can add the module underneath to the mob farm you might already have. So to build this one, what you need to do first of all is build a platform that is 19 by 19. I've used these top slabs here. Mobs do spawn on top slabs. They don't spawn on bottom slabs, so make sure that's the case. Then in the center, leave a 5 by 5 hole. That's for the mobs to fall into. And then around the edge, put solid blocks all the way around the edge, but leave a gap of 2 on each side, on each corner, just like that. Then get yourself some stairs and do 3 stairs here, and then another 2 in here to complete the edge. Do that on all 4 corners. Then add a glass block, 1 block in from the edge, just here, and then get your trapdoors and then place them all the way along this wall, all the way along, and then of course on all 4 sides. Do that there. Open them up. Same on this side. 4 all the way around, just like that. So you've got all of your trapdoors like that. Then get yourself some water, place them against the glass just like that. If you place them on the slabs themselves, that will waterlog them, so you don't want to do that. If you come around this side, you can add water to behind your trapdoors by clicking on the block behind, just like this. Once you've done that, your floor will look something like this. Now, what I've also done is I've added a stair just like this, a top stair on the middle block on one side. Then from there, you need to add redstone dust on top of all of the blocks and all of the stairs that we've got going all the way around. Now, if you go from this side where we've added this stair right here, follow this around, and the first repeater you need to do is on this block right here, this stair. So that's traveling from there to here, and then the next repeater you need to do on this side is on the first stair just here like that. That's to make sure that all of these blocks get powered with the redstone dust when it gets turned on. Then just continue the redstone all the way around, and those repeaters on the other side are in the same place. Then get yourself some glass blocks and place them on top of the trapdoors just like this all the way around, so it goes on top of all of the water and also on top of the glass in the corner just like that. And that is 1 floor of your mob farm done. So depending on how many floors you want, I've got 10, but you don't need to have that many. You can have a few less than that if you like. But basically you just need to rebuild this again multiple times, stacked one on top of the other, exactly as we built these here. Now there are a couple of differences. So first of all, what you need to do for alternate floors, you need to make sure that these stair blocks here are staggered. So this one is here in this location, the one above it is here, and then so the one above that will be in the same place as the first one. So you get staggered stairs there. That's to make sure that the redstone we're going to do in a second all wires up. When it comes to putting the floor in, obviously the floor for the next level goes here above this glass block, so build the same floor we've got here. The other difference is on the bottom floor only, you need to add trapdoors on top of these glass blocks here, and then when you open them up like that, there's a little ledge there. That is to make sure that spiders won't crawl up these walls and get stuck. So sometimes they hang around here, so the water will push them off, and yeah, just make sure they don't get stuck. So that's only on the bottom floor. You need to add trapdoors all the way around on the glass here. Also on the bottom floor only, add these bars all the way around here, these iron bars, just like that. That's to make sure that all the mobs get flushed over correctly, just on the bottom floor, just like that. On all the other floors, use these fence gates and make sure they're all open on every single floor. With that done, your mob farm will look like this. Now we need to come up to the very top to add the roof. So what we need to do here is add bottom slabs. This is to make sure that mobs don't spawn on the very top. And where do we place these? Well, we need to come up and line up with the first of the stairs next to the solid blocks on each side. So one here and one here. And you need to count out from this, from on top of where these blocks are here, count out 15 all the way to there. Same on this side, all the way to there. Do that in all 4 corners, and then join up all of those sides, and then fill in the whole of the inside. That will make sure that your farm is dark, and also take advantage of something called pack spawning. Now I explained that in another video that I've got on my channel. I will link that in the description, and it also gives you some tips and tricks about how mob spawning works and what can happen to reduce your rates in your farms. The next thing to do is come to the side where we added the stairs on the end and then create this this torch tower. So you can see we've got alternate blocks, so alternate solid blocks like this with redstone torches underneath them. You should see that all the redstone torches on this side should all be lit up and the ones on this side should be out. And the way to make sure you line this up properly is to go to the very top level where we've got this stair. Make sure this first solid block is next to the redstone, just like that, and do that all the way down to the very last level. So when we get down to here, so when we're in line with this stair right here, we need to have another 12 of these solid blocks underneath it. So 1, 2, 3, all the way down for 12 blocks. That will take you to here. And then underneath that, we need to have another block here and a torch. And then next to that, we need to have 10 solid blocks over here with redstone on the top. And that leads us to this hopper clock right here. So this is a standard hopper clock. So we've got 2 sticky pistons just next to each other here with the redstone and whatnot. And inside this hopper right here, we have 26 items. That's the important thing. Now over on this side, you can see we've got the redstone on top here. And over here, a solid block next to this one with an on and off switch. So this is going to control the whole farm. Now, one thing you might want to do as well is to plug up the hole here so you don't get mobs falling out and surprising you as you're building. And yeah, that is the end of the what we need to do to make the mob farm. The next thing to do is to set up the copper module underneath. Next up, we'll add the clock and also the mechanism for dealing with the mobs over there in our sorting system. So this line here is the hopper clock we just added. So just next to this switch, add a block diagonally down with some redstone on top, and this is going to make part of the second hopper clock right here. And this hopper clock has got 6 items in it. And then next to that, we have to have this observer just here into a repeater on full settings, some redstone like this. You can see how that's laid out, and then these 2 repeaters right here, this on one setting down, this on the normal setting, block here, redstone torch, and then a piston just here, sticky piston with a block on it. This is where all your mobs are going to stand, just here. So this block will retract to drop down any skeletons that are left behind, and this piston here will push to get any zombies into the sorting system over there. Next up, come to the top where the mobs are going to fall out, and we need to add this box around it to collect the mobs. So this box is 3 high, it's going to be 5 wide here, and it's going to be 4 deep here on the floor. Then add these signs along here to stop the water falling down. Then some trapdoors here to give the mobs underneath a bit of more headroom to move around. And then some more solid blocks here. Then around the outside here, add some chains on either side and also some fence gates along here. These blocks are here to encourage the mobs to fall out and not get stuck. On the top here, we're going to add some magma blocks. The reason for that is that baby zombies can fall through this gap here. Now on these 3 sides, that's okay. They'll end up in this chamber, but on the back here, they'll end up standing on this wall. So we just want to kill them off. So we do that. And then add some water sources all along on this side, just like that. And you'll see that the water comes all the way up to the edge here, which is great. And then any undead mobs that get flushed along will fall down in this hole here. Everything else will come off this side and down to the killing area. Next up, we need to add some water streams to move the undead mobs around. So just underneath here where we've added the signs, make a 3 high box just here, which is 2 wide. And then we've got water sources on this side, which is flowing this way. Add some signs over here to stop the water. And then underneath here, have another channel here, which is 2 high with 1 water source here flowing this way. So all the undead mobs will first of all get flushed over this way and fall into this channel right here. And then this water stream will push them all the way here. And then have a tube here that falls down, and that should link up with this glass block here. This is the one attached to the sticky piston where all your undead mobs should end up. Next up, I've added all the water columns here to deal with the zombies being converted. Now, there's a lot of blocks here. There will be a world download in the description if you want to download this and count and measure it all up for yourself. But we'll go over it now super quick. So what we need to do here is, first of all, we need to add our campfire right here next to this piston. Well, obviously the gap there, then a water source above it, and then the chain facing this way. Make sure it's in that orientation. Then a sign behind the water source, so the water source here, and then flows this way. I recommend having some temporary blocks underneath it to get the water to flow, otherwise it will just flow straight down. And then from here, so from this block here all the way down to just above here signs, that is 17 blocks. So you need to have a 17 by 3 drop basically, and then have 3 signs across here, and then one water source here which will flow all the way down here. Then have a drop, and then 1 copper wall here, soul sand here. Above that have 1 water source here which will flow this way into this gap, and have a sign here to hold that back. Then make sure you fill all of that up with water sources. Over here I've also added a drop for the skeletons. So this is 14, a depth of 14, and then it stops. You can make it longer if you like, but that's long enough to keep them in place. Then over here we have, this should all be a bubble column all the way back up to the top. back up to this level here. Now what I recommend at this top here level here, add a temporary block underneath and put a water source here so the water flows all the way along here, and you can see water flows for a length of 8. So you can see here on the last 2 we've got a soul sand here and then an open fence gate just like that, and then we have another drop here which is a drop of 12 all the way down to this level here, and then we can build the killing area and a collection after that. Next up, let's take care of the items. So here at the bottom of this, the drop chute, we're going to have 2 hoppers, one pointing into the other. Also have carpets on the top. First of all, that is to stop the baby drowns escaping. They're too tall, so they can't get out. And also it means that the XP won't get stuck into the hoppers. So make sure you get those on there. Then have a hopper underneath that points over here to the right into a temporary block for now. We'll deal with that in a second. And then underneath that, we've got a standard item filter just here. And over here, we've got 1 copper ingot over here, and then 4 stacks of 11 of a different item. Ideally, name these so nothing else can get confused, but yeah, any item that won't be in the farm is also good. Then that can obviously then go down into your chest, and all of your copper ingots will end up in here. Then come to the top here and add a little wall here, and also here on this side to make sure you're encased, and then add your trapdoor behind. So this means you can get into the farm this way, close it behind you, and yeah, you'll be here ready to kill these drowns. Next up, if you want to destroy all the other items, then add a dropper next to this hopper that we placed going to the right, and that should be facing downwards, and that can face into some lava or something else that will destroy items, just like that here. Then behind that, add these 6 blocks, these 6 solid blocks here, and add a target block next to the dropper. Then we can just add the redstone on behind that, so a comparator that goes into a block, then some redstone dust behind that, that goes into a block, and then a repeater just here with another piece of redstone dust like that. Now you'll notice that this redstone connects to this redstone, so just add a solid block on top to cut that off, and that's all you need to do. The last part of the farm is to deal with all the other mobs and collect their drops. So first of all, we've got this collection area. Now this is 25 blocks down from the sticky piston underneath where the skeletons go. So from here, if you were to count 25, so 1, 2, 3, for example, all the way down 25 blocks, and then this magma block here will be on the 26th block. Now where this is positioned doesn't have to be exact. I've got mine sort of just here. This is where the skeletons fall out. So the skeletons come out at this block right here. So 2 from this side, 1 from here. Again, doesn't have to be super exact. And this box is 8 by 6. So 8 this way, 6 this way. We've got magma blocks here to make sure that any mobs that don't die full damage because they've got armor on will die from the magma blocks, but the items won't get destroyed. Likewise, we've got these magma blocks on the top to deal with any chicken jockeys that might fly astray. Underneath there, we've got this rail network. So there's 2 sets of rails. There's one that starts here and loops around, bounces off of that block there. Same on the other side. And then we can have 2 hopper minecarts going across, collecting all the drops. Last of all, just need to deal with the other items. So here we've got these the 2 lines from the minecarts coming up here onto 2 hoppers. They face into these droppers that are facing downwards. We've got the comparator behind that then powers this torch, which then powers the piston here. And so when there's items in here, that will depower, which creates an observer clock here, which will pulse any items that end up in the droppers there. So what we need to do now is add our hopper minecarts to the 2 rails. There we go. And now we can test this by dropping some items in here. So we drop some over there and see what happens. Hopefully the hopper minecart should pick up the items, and when it comes back here it should stop on top of the rail, and there it is, dropping them all off, and there's the items in the water stream ready for you to redirect to wherever you need them. And that's it. The last thing to do is to remove these blocks out of here. This could be dangerous, so you might want to think about this before you do it, but be careful there. And so remove those blocks. We're ready to rock and roll, and now we can turn the farm on by flipping this lever over here. That will turn the 2 clocks on, and we should see that mobs start coming out of this area pretty quickly. So we've got this through the water there. There we go. They will start pushing through, and yeah, they should now start entering the system. So you will need a good sword. So here's the sword that I've got here. Make sure it's got looting 3 on it at least. If you have other things like smite and then sweeping edge and mending, that will also help as well. So that's the kind of sword that you want. And then just go to the killing area and start killing these drowns as they come in. And we can see that there's some iron ingots. Iron ingots? I said it again. Oh, copper ingots. I need to get used to that. Copper ingots coming in. So you can see that there's nothing but drowns now falling down here. And this is pretty cool. So there we have it, a copper farm for 1.17. So this is a good option if you've got a general mob farm you want to convert and get some copper out of it, or if you're planning to create a general mob farm anyway, this also gives you all the other drops. So I hope you found that useful. There is a link in the description to the various videos that I mentioned during the tutorial, and also there'll be a download for this world as well. So you can take down the world and take a close look at this thing for yourself. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please hit the like button. And if you're new, then feel free to subscribe. And if you've got any other comments or suggestions, get in that comment section. Alright my geeks, till next time, I will see you later.